Welcome to this meeting of Council. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of this recording. Indigo Shire Council acknowledges the original custodians of these lands. The people of the rivers and the hills have walked these lands for thousands of years, as well as today, and we pay respect to the elders of the past and present. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Before we continue, we'd just like to acknowledge that we've got our orange T-shirts on tonight, and that's for the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is a widely recognised global campaign that signifies action towards ending violence against women and girls around the world. It starts on the 25th of November, which is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and ends on the 10th of December, which is Human Rights Day. This year's campaign encourages all Victorians to work together to prevent violence against women. Indigo Shire Council will host special library storytime sessions in partnership with Upper Murray Family Care to help our community get involved and champion positive messages of gender equality while raising awareness that gender-based violence, including family violence, are human rights issues and are unacceptable and preventable. Council will also hold an internal morning tea on Friday, the 1st of December, to show the support to the campaign. Apologies or leaves of absence. We have Councillor Shepherd is an apology tonight. Declarations of conflict of interest. We'll move on to item 5, the elections. So item 5.1 is the meeting procedure, and it is for information. So section 25(3)(a) of the Act requires that the election of the Mayor must be chaired by the CEO. Governance Rule 12 states that the CEO will chair the statutory meeting for the purposes of setting the mayoral term and electing the Mayor. At its statutory meeting on the 22nd of November 2022, Council determined that the mayoral term be set at 2 years. The mayoral term will expire in November 2024 and is not due for a new appointment at this statutory meeting. As there is no election of the Mayor at this meeting, the Mayor will chair the entire meeting and there will be no need for the CEO to be the temporary chair. We move to item 5.2, the Deputy Mayoral term. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 notes Governance Rule 17 and the remaining time of the current council term, and 2 sets the Deputy Mayoral term at 1 year. Do I have somebody to move that? Moved Councillor Tyson, seconded Councillor Croucher. Councillor Tyson, do you wish to say anything? Councillor Croucher? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 5.3 is the election of the Deputy Mayor. The item is for decision. I will now call on nominations for Deputy Mayor. Councillor Croucher.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Bernard Gaffney as Deputy Mayor. This 1 year term.
Councillor Croucher is nominating Councillor Gaffney. Do we have a seconder for that nomination? Councillor Tyson is seconding that nomination. Councillor Gaffney, do you accept the nomination? Do we have any other nominations for Deputy Mayor? With no other nominations, we have the mover as Councillor Croucher, the seconder as Councillor Tyson. We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour that Council elect Councillor Bernard Gaffney as Deputy Mayor of Indigo Shire Council for a term of 1 year. Carried unanimously. Councillor Gaffney, did you want to say anything?
Just to say, that's right, Madam Mayor, that we're certainly looking forward to 2024, which is about to begin, and I'm sure it'll be a very good year for Council. 2023, as you'd be aware, has been really busy, and this Council, I think, has shown itself to be very functional.
Thank you and congratulations, Councillor Gaffney. Thank you. Item 6 is the annual meeting schedule, and item 6.1 is 2024 council meeting schedule and administration. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council sets the following scheduled council meeting dates for 2024. They're listed with all of the ordinary meetings and a statutory meeting. Number 2, determines to include the following meeting preliminaries in all council meetings. Notify the gallery that the meeting will be live streamed and recorded. Acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and reconfirmation of councillor oath. And 3, determines that councillors provide periodic reports to council with the following content and frequency. The mayoral diary of appointments to be provided monthly, and councillors to provide a written report on funded development activities or trips as determined by the councillor in conjunction with the mayor. Do I have somebody who would like to move that? Moved councillor Gold, seconded councillor Gaffney. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney? Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 7 is council committees appointments, and item 7.1 is appointments to council committees and external bodies. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council appoints councillor representatives to the following external organisations and council committees as detailed. So councillors will just go through the committees and confirm that councillors are happy with the representation that they've got on various committees. The audit committee currently has councillor Gaffney and Price on it. Is there any suggested change, or are councillors happy for that to remain the same? That will stay the same. The finance committee is all councillors. The CEO Employment and Remuneration Advisory Committee is all councillors. The Indigo Community Access Committee is currently councillor Croucher and Price. Any suggested change, councillors? No, that will remain. The Indigo Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee previously had councillor Goldsworthy, Shepherd, and room for a third councillor if anyone so desires. So as councillor Goldsworthy is no longer on council, the suggestion is that councillor Gold might like to take up that position. So the representation will be councillor Gold and councillor Shepherd. Indigo, currently the representation is councillor Tysell, Horn and Shepherd. Councillor Tysell, you'll indicate that you will no longer be on that committee.
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
And councillor Gold, you will fill that vacancy. The Indigo Environment Advisory Committee is currently councillor Horn and Tysell. Any suggested change to that, councillors? No. The Indigo Shire Community Grants Awards Advisory Committee is currently councillor Croucher and councillor Gaffney. Any suggested change? No. And the Waganya Land Development Committee is currently councillor Gaffney and Price. Any suggested change? No. AXM is the mayor and the deputy mayor. Aturo Island Friendship Committee is currently councillor Croucher. No suggested change. ALGA will now include councillor Gold. The Goulburn Murray Climate Alliance is currently councillor Shepherd and Price. No suggested change. The Hume Region Local Government Network is the mayor and the CEO. The Lake Hume Recreational Coordinating Committee is councillor Croucher and Gaffney. No suggested change. The Murray-Darling Basin Authority Advisory Group, Hume to Yarrawonga Waterway Management, is currently councillor Gaffney and Croucher. No change. The MAV is the mayor and the deputy mayor. Murray Arts is currently councillor Shepherd and councillor Croucher. Councillor Shepherd has indicated that she would like to come off that committee. Councillor Gold, you've expressed an interest, so the representatives will now be councillor Gold and councillor Croucher. The Murray-Darling Association is currently councillor Gaffney and Price. No change. The Ovens and Murray Regional Partnership is the mayor and deputy mayor. Rural Councils Victoria is the Mayor and Deputy Mayor, and the Victorian State Police Local Safety Committee is currently Councillor Gaffney, Croucher, Price and Tysell. No change. So if councillors are happy with those, all of those committee appointments being reflected in the recommendation, then I'll ask someone to move that council appoints council representatives to the following external organisations and council committees as described. Moved Councillor Horn, seconded Councillor Gaffney. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. That brings us to the end of the statutory meeting. So I declare the statutory meeting closed at 6:40 p.m. and we will now proceed immediately to the ordinary council meeting. I'll go ahead with the same preliminaries again. Welcome to this meeting of council. The meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of this recording. Indigo Shire Council acknowledges the original custodians of these lands. The people in the rivers and the hills have walked these lands for thousands of years as well as today, and we pay respect to the elders of the past and present. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We're all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Councillor Diane Shepherd is the apology. Are there any other apologies or leaves of absence? No? Are there any declarations of conflict of interest with the agenda tonight, councillors? No. We'll now go to open forum, for which we have two questioners. I'll check that those questioners are both in the audience, and I can see that they are, and I will read them out. So the first questions are from Christine Hay. Question 1. At the September council meeting, I asked questions relating to the Chiltern Athenaeum building restoration project. Question relating to temperature control at the building. The answer supplied by Ian Ellett, Director of Infrastructure, was that the project budget could not support the significant cost of the proposed ducted climate control, and the option of a more cost-effective split system air conditioning arrangement was rejected by Heritage Victoria. Councillor Shepherd offered to raise the matter with the Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee at their October meeting. As promised, Councillor Shepherd raised the issue and discussions suggested there may be other means rather than mechanical or electrical systems. Perhaps revisit the previously suggested climate control systems, in brackets split systems, and submit a revised proposal to Heritage Victoria, and the Heritage architect, whose contact details were passed on to the project manager, offered to review any architectural considerations for the split system proposal. The question is, can the project manager provide an update on discussions held with the Heritage architect relating to temperature control at the Athenaeum Museum and provide any positive outcomes? The Director of Infrastructure Services, Ian Ellett.
Thanks, Christine, for your question. Look, the short answer is that the project manager has reached out and made contact with the Heritage architect, and that was a couple of weeks ago, but they're yet to sort of catch up and meet to discuss that, but they certainly will. Yeah, thank you.
Second question. Another question I asked related to concerns relating to the health of the museum's items left in the building for a length of time as the building was closed for restoration works. As an example, I used the World War I Battle of Bathsheba saddle, which after being left in the closed building suffered an outbreak of mould. The answer supplied by Sally Rice, Corporate and Economic Development Director. Unfortunately, the saddle has a history of active mould and had a flare-up during this relocation. In response to this, the museum team made the decision to transfer it to their care, where it could be closely monitored and receive preservation care in accordance with museum best practices. The saddle has since remained in a stable condition and is now with a professional conservator, the same conservator who addressed the previous mould flare-up. This is incorrect. Previous to the closure of the building for restoration works, the saddle did not suffer mould. In 2015, I arranged with the Saddler's Workshop in Wangaratta to recondition the saddle. There was no mould then or up until the building closure. The Saddle is back with the Saddler's Workshop now to have this recent mould outbreak rectified. This was arranged by the Chiltern Athenaeum volunteers and not Burke Museum as stated. The concern relating to items left in the closed building for some time remains, especially the library items integral to the heritage listing of the building. So I ask again, if the longevity of the restoration of the building has caused harm to collection items, will Indigo Shire provide resources for remedial work to rectify this? The Director of Community and Economic Development, Sally Rice.
Thank you, Mayor Price. To the best of our knowledge, the Chiltern Athenaeum collection is owned by the Athenaeum, not by council. However, a number of significant artworks in the collection are insured by council. Therefore, if any of those nominated items have been damaged or need restoration, council will be more than happy to pursue an insurance claim to support any remedial works required. And as we've done in the past, we'll continue to provide high-level professional advice to the committee, and in the event the collection items require remedial work, council's museum staff are available to offer assistance through the Cross Shire Collections Support Program. In relation to the fixtures, council is the property manager who therefore has obligations to maintain them. This is done through an agreement of defined roles and responsibilities between council and the building occupier, which in this case happens to be the Chiltern Athenaeum Community Asset Committee.
Thank you. Those are all of the questions submitted by Christine Hay. We'll now move on to the second set of questions submitted by Elizabeth McInerney, who I can say is present, and so I will therefore go ahead and ask the questions on your behalf. The Chiltern Athenaeum Committee asks for a breakdown of the money already spent by the Indigo Shire on the urgent conservation work undertaken at the Athenaeum. We are now 3 years on from that announcement. Then we were informed in July 2023 that the Indigo Shire does not have the funds to complete the restoration to the level originally planned. This announcement delivered to us with the following work yet to be completed: painting internal and external, climate control installation, address water ingress, electrical work, draft ceiling, services covered, removal of Robertson display cabinet, floors to be repaired, sanded and sealed, stained glass window reinstalment, scaffolding removal, yard cleanup and restoration. So you're asking for a breakdown of the money already spent on the urgent work. Director of Infrastructure Services, Ian Ellett.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I can't give you that breakdown tonight, but staff certainly will provide a breakdown to the committee of the expenditure to date. Yep.
Question 2, what happens if we are unsuccessful in the bid for the Copeland Foundation grant? Does the Shire have contingency plans? Director of Infrastructure Services, Ian Ellett.
Thank you again. So, look, I guess my response is there's no current commitment for additional funding, but council certainly remains interested in seeing a climate control system installed, and will consider any further commitments as part of future budget processes. Yep.
And the third and final question, when will the Athenaeum grounds be restored to condition prior to building commencement? Contractors, builders have left the historic machinery display area littered with plastic buckets, old tarps, drums, bucket-sized lumps of concrete, bricks, timber, steps, insulation, PVC pipes, scaffold framework interspersed and leaning on our historic displays. It's an utter disgrace. And I just confirm that we've received the pictures and we've each had a look at those to inform the question, and we'll now hear a response from Director of Infrastructure Services, Ian Ellett.
Thank you again. So look, my response at the moment, having received an update from the project manager, is obviously it's still a work site. We're trying to get the contractor back on site to finish off. We anticipate that will all be completed in early 2024. We'll certainly ensure the contractor cleans up the site, removes any waste and building materials upon completion. But I suppose I would add to that if there's anything that sort of needs in advance of that, then I'm happy to have the project manager work with the committee to say, well, if there's things at the moment that that's not a good enough response, then we'll move. But certainly at the moment, yeah, I know the contractors left site. It is a mess, and certainly as part of their finishing off, they would absolutely have to clean up.
Did you just say
No, so the completion, we're now, not realistically going to see it before Christmas. But no, look, we're hoping to have them back quite soon. I don't have an update for you, but we've been working through just even the last week, to get insurance issues sorted, and same contractor's been involved in another project. So yeah, I anticipate these back on site fairly soon.
Thank you for your questions. That's all of the questions that were submitted for tonight's open forum. We'll now move to item 6, community and council achievements. Councillor Tyson, you'd like to raise a community achievement?
Yeah, just quickly, I'd just like to congratulate, Kylie Whitehead on her achievement. She's the first player on debut to win the Premier League of Bowls. Kylie is a Chiltern girl, and I hope everybody read the paper on Saturday to get the information for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Councillor Gold, you'd like to raise a community achievement?
Thank you. I wanted to acknowledge the Yackandandah Community Development Co. 20-year anniversary. I thought that was a wonderful display of the merits of council and community collaboration. I think 20 years ago, the community of Yackandandah faced losing their petrol station, an outcome that would have had significant negative social and economic impacts. Through a shared commitment to find a solution, council was able to underwrite losses in the short term, source a grant, lease, and then sell to YCD Co. the land for the new site for the petrol station, which has now evolved significantly into hardware and farm and fencing products and produce. And council was able to support the planning process throughout. I think now after 20 years, the social enterprise that YCD Co has become now operates and provides ongoing benefits to the local community and council. And council is thrilled to have supported and participated in the 20th anniversary celebrations, including the launch of the new water bubbler sculpture in Isaacs Park, which is a hand. It's lovely.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. I'd also like to mention that we had 2 members of the Indigo team recognised at the Local Government Professionals Annual Women in Local Government Awards. So our Tourism Development Officer in Product Development, Chloe Powell, was awarded the 2023 Sally Isaac Memorial Scholarship Fund Award. The award fosters the professional development of emerging female leaders who commit themselves to the improvement of their communities and those they serve through a $10,000 educational scholarship. Chloe was recognised for her work in delivering the Community Comeback Project post-pandemic and to supporting small businesses to be more agile. Chloe was up against a high calibre group of young women professionals from across Victoria, mostly those working in larger metropolitan councils. Congratulations, Chloe. Also recognised was Executive Assistant Catherine Baldock, who was awarded an LG Pro Rural Women's Professional Development Scholarship. This is a great recognition of 2 of our great achievers. And also to mention that last week, the organisation recognised one of its longest serving employees, our Works Supervisor West, John Plemming, who marked an incredible 40-year milestone within Indigo Shire. John began work prior to council amalgamations and is well known to many in the Rutherglen area. John has seen a number of changes over the years and has watched the growth and development of his hometown during that period. And just as on a personal note, I think that lots of us reap the rewards of the reputation that our works crews give our organisation, and I know that that's certainly something that we can thank John Plemming for. He's very highly regarded over there, and lots of people totally ignore the customer service system and just go straight to see John in Rutherglen. So congratulations to all of those 3 staff members on those various achievements. Councillors, do we have any more community or council achievements? Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to mention Councillor Peter Croucher, who's a member of Rostrum, New South Wales Albury branch. Peter recently won the Public Speaking Championship for 2023, which is a massive achievement. Well done, Peter.
Congratulations, Councillor Croucher. We'll now move on to item 7, condolences. Do we have any condolences for the meeting tonight? No. Item 8 is confirmation of minutes from previous meetings. The recommendation is that the following minutes be confirmed. 1, the minutes of the council meeting held on the 31st of October 2023 as published on council's website, and 2, confidential minutes of the council meeting held on the 31st of October 2023 as provided to councillors under separate cover. Do I have someone to move that motion? Moved Councillor Gold, seconded Councillor Tyson. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak? Councillor Tyson? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 9 is business arising from the previous minutes, and there are no nil reports. Item 10 is petitions, and there are none. Item 11 is planning and corporate services, and item 11.1 is the finance report for October 2023. The item is for information, and the recommendation is that council accepts the 31st October 2023 finance report. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Gaffney, seconded Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gaffney?
I'm very happy with this report, but I have got a couple of questions for the Director of Finance. In the report on page 9, it talks about user fees and 615,000 unfavourable for Buller Gas as of the 31st of October 2023. On page 10, under materials and consumables, there's a favourable variance for Buller Gas for 618,000 because of the purchase of gas, and this being one of the worst snow results in 45 years. In the current budget, the forecast was for a surplus of approximately 630,000. Will we reach that forecast, or will there be difficulties because of less demand for gas on Mount Buller?
Director of Planning and Corporate Services, Greg Pinkerton.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, for the question. You're right. In of course, the budget for the year is 640,000. On the attachment to the report, it shows that the surplus year to date, so the first 4 months, is 388,000 and a bit of loose change compared to a budget of 367. So at this point of the year, the surplus is tracking according to budget. Clearly, the report does flag that it was a poor snow season, and we won't really know the projected full year results until we get to the mid-year budget review. We do a reforecast at mid-year, and until we get to that point, I wouldn't be able to predict the full year outcome. But at this stage, 388,000 of surplus.
Thank you. According to the report, we're still in a strong financial position under some difficult circumstances. With the money that we have in the bank, the Mayor and I were talking to the CEO of WAW, and we've been a good client of theirs for a number of years. And when we have spare, well, not spare cash to invest, do we look at the local places rather than those interstate?
Director of Planning and Corporate Services, Greg Pinkerton.
Yeah, thank you. On page 12 of the agenda, it does have a breakdown of the investments. WAW is listed. We quite regularly use WAW. Hume is there. We certainly have a preference to use local suppliers, whether it be for financing activities or for supplies. The council does have a stringent policy on dispersing our investments across multiple banking institutions, which is just a risk management strategy. But yeah, if you have a look at page 12, it has those detailed.
Thank you.
Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just like to endorse councillor Gaffney and say that the results for the first 4 months of the financial year showed a very favourable position, while our expenditure is in line with our forecasts at the time. So that's really good news at this stage.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney, would you like to sum up?
No, that's fine.
I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11.2 is planning permit application PP 22-0182 for 2525 Kiewa Valley Highway, Kaganya. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council issues a notice of decision for planning permit PP 22-0182 2525 Kiewa Valley Highway, Kaganya to refuse to grant a planning permit for the use of the land as a camping and caravan park and buildings and works in brackets amenities in the farming zone on the following grounds. 1, a recommending referral authority. The North East Catchment Management Authority has not consented to the proposal. 2, the proposal is not consistent with the planning policy framework and municipal planning statement, and it lists 5 items there. 3, the proposal is not consistent with the purpose and decision guidelines of the farming zone, as it does not support ongoing agricultural use, negatively impacts on future agricultural use, and has negative environmental impacts. 4, the proposal is not consistent with purpose and decision guidelines of the floodway overlay and land subject to inundation overlay, as it poses a risk to free flow of floodwaters, life and property of future occupants, and to the future water quality of the Kiewa River. 5, the proposal is not consistent with the purpose and decision guidelines of the Environmental Significance Overlay Schedule 1, as it removes high-value agricultural land from production. And 6, the proposal is not consistent with the decision guidelines at clause 65.01 of the Indigo Planning Scheme. Do I have somebody who would move that motion? Moved Councillor Gold, seconded Councillor Tyson. Councillor Gold, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. I think there was a really, from my understanding, quite a comprehensive assessment done by council officers. And I think the issues that they've raised around the use of land, the flood, and the environmental significance, and the threats to any development, but also to that site and future use and farm zone has been well covered. And without another proposal, I don't think this is supported by the our best decision for the use of that land now and in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak as seconder?
Yeah, my thoughts on this are a little different. I really want to just get this up for discussion. The Victorian state allows for camping along all of our rivers and waterways. It's often unpermitted. We have people who stay and do not move on, whilst this application would be permitted and would allow for only self-contained people to stay on the property. When I look at the uses for farmland and agricultural use, I note that this would be minimal impact to the land, and that the impact that a solar farm would have would be far more adverse than this particular proposal. I'd also like to state that I believe that there needs to be more accountability for agencies that continue to advise our landholders and clientele towards what are marginal outcomes at council. They're all well aware of what rules are, what acts are in place, and what uses can be put up. And I really feel that they need to be more accountable when they're advising their clientele.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher.
I would like to speak against the motion. This proposal offers a very unique tourism opportunity by providing a beautiful suite of sites for those who enjoy the natural landscape of the outdoors, enhanced by the beautiful Kiewa River. The Kiewa River winds its way through much of the Indigo Shire and is so underused by our communities who live nearby. why it has only been recently that the community of Kiwa Tangambalanga have been given access to the river via the former Nekmar site in Kiwa. The proposal requires guests to bring their own potable water, and any wastewater or effluent is to be discharged via portable toilet cartridges to an amenities block in an appropriate location outside the flood zone. As there will be little alteration to the land, beef cattle farming will continue to support agricultural use. As it is integral to the sites, there is no need for any vegetation to be removed at all. I believe the sites represent an excellent opportunity for further economic development of the Kaganya area and represent an ideal outcome for tourism, and will therefore not diminish farming operations on the land or jeopardise agricultural opportunities for surrounding farmland.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn?
I would like to support both comments from Councillor Tysell and Councillor Croucher. And in light of the opening up of the riverways and forest as an election promise in the last elections, I think this is a pretty unfortunate decision based on these rules as they exist. And yeah, I also will vote against it.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
I'd just like to say that I definitely agree with the comments of Councillor Tysell. You go along the Murray and there's people camping there, and they camp there for long periods of time. It makes you wonder what damage that's doing to the river. The site where this caravan park would be, I think, is very ideal. However, item number 4, which talks about the proposal is not consistent with the purpose and decision guidelines of the floodway overlay and land subject to inundation overlay, as it poses a risk to free flow of floodwaters, life and property of future occupants, and to the future water quality of the Kiowa River. Having said that, I'm very sympathetic to this cause. I think it would be a great product for Indigo Shire and the community.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. I'll just remind councillors that the recommendation is that council issues a notice of decision to refuse to grant a planning permit. All those in favour? Those against? So that is a tied vote. So I need to provide a casting vote, and I will vote for the recommendation. So the item is carried. So those for the application, for the refusal, are Councillor Gold, Price, Gaffney. Those against are Councillor Tysell, Croucher, Horn. The motion is carried. Item 11.3 is planning permit application PP 230089 for 645 Hellhole Creek Road, Kaganya. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council issues a notice of decision for planning permit PP 230089 645 Hellhole Creek Road, Kaganya, to refuse to grant a permit for a 2-lot re-subdivision in the farming zone on the following grounds. The proposal is contrary to the purpose and decision guidelines of the farming zone. 2, the proposal is contrary to the municipal planning strategy and planning policy framework in particular clauses, and there are 5 listed. 3, the proposal is not supported by the decision guidelines at clause 65.01 and 65.02 of the Indigo Planning Scheme. And 4, a determining referral authority, the CFA has not consented to the proposal. Do I have somebody to move that? Councillor Gaffney?
I'd like to move an alternate motion, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Gaffney, what is your alternate motion?
Is that council defer consideration of planning permit PP 230089 at 645 Hellhole Creek Road, Kaganya, until the CFA consents or objects to the granting of a planning permit. I would like the defer motion to be a date to be fixed when we have received correspondence from the CFA.
Thank you, councillor Gaffney. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Tyson. So I'll just confer with you, councillor Gaffney. It's being deferred until the CFA responds with either consent or objects to the granting of a planning permit.
Correct.
Okay, so a deferral, we don't need to speak to that. We just put the motion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 12 is community and economic development. Item 12.1 is Chiltern Land Development Project, the final community precinct concept master plan. The item is for decision. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 receives and notes this report, which describes the process to develop the Chiltern Land Community Precinct Concept Plan. 2, notes the submissions received during the public exhibition process and the council officer responses. 3, thanks the community working group for participating in the process. 4, receives and notes the Chiltern Land Community Precinct Concept Plan as the final output of this stage of the overall project. And 5, continues to plan for the development of this land by advancing the Chiltern Land Community Precinct Concept Plan through undertaking feasibility studies and obtaining expert professional advice that informs the preparation of development plans for the site. Do I have somebody who would like to move that? Moved councillor Gold, seconded councillor Tyson. Councillor Gold.
Thank you. I think this is another really strong example of the benefit of council and community working together, that council owns the land but has put it to the Chiltern community about how that land could be best used to meet their needs. I think it's been a really strong process with great leadership. The outcome, I think, is brilliant. I'm hopeful that from here on, the next stages of this project will see council continue to work well with the community and perhaps other interests, business interests or others who may like to progressively bring that site to life.
Thank you, councillor Gold. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'd just like to acknowledge the work that the working group did in the community for this, and also just like to note that one of the things that they were very focused on is making sure that the outcome for this was tailored to the people of Chiltern in the township. So hopefully going forward, that recommendation stays, and that this is a fantastic opportunity for the town, and it will take time, so people will have to be patient. But the things that they've so far highlighted that potentially could go there are aged care, industrial use, emergency services and community uses. And I hope all of that happens with this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Tyson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher.
Yeah, look, this has been through the process, and what I liked about this is that great community consultation. It was really terrific with schools being involved and everybody. And now with this recommendation being endorsed, the plans for the Chiltern land can be further advanced via these feasibility studies and professional advisors. So great endorsement.
Thank you, councillor Croucher. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn.
I'd very much like to congratulate everyone who's been involved with this development and the execution of the concept plan. It's particularly pleasing to hear that more than 1,200 unique ideas and points of view were fed into the mix. This clearly demonstrates the true value of participatory processes such as this, which encourage such a high level of community interest and involvement. There's a long way to go yet, lots of hoops to jump through yet, but it's a very exciting and solid start.
Thank you, councillor Horn. I'll go back to you, councillor Gold, as the mover, if you'd like to sum up. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 12.2 is the Local Sports Infrastructure Fund 2023-2024. CEO, you'd like to say something about this item?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Price. With permission of the chair, I'd like to table an amended report. There's a minor change to the report. Might have changed to the version that was listed in the agenda papers and went on the website. Since the agenda was published, we received an updated cost estimate for the Barnawartha Football Club sports lighting project. It's current, so there'll be a couple of changes. One is in the body of the report and one is to the recommendation. In the body of the report, we have listed there a total project cost of 330,000. We now believe the better figure is 350,000. Previously, we had a cost contribution breakdown of 25,000 from the club, which we propose remains unchanged. There was a proposal to seek from the grant provider, Sports Rec Victoria grant, previously $247,500. The maximum for this grant pool is 250, so we propose to go for the whole 250, which is an increase of $2,500. The remainder of the 20,000 would be 17,500, which we would propose to come from the Shire as a contribution from the council from the capital program. So previously we had 57,500. We would increase that figure to $75,000. So those changes are in the table that's in the report, and we would propose that the recommendation be altered. And it's the last line of the recommendation, which previously was $57,500 council contribution, would now read $75,000 for the Barnawartha Football Club sports lighting. So I'll table that change, Mayor Price, and councillors have previously today been provided with an updated version equivalent to that report.
Thank you, CEO. So councillors, if you refer to the version that the CEO has just referenced, I'll read from it now. The item is 12.2. It's the Local Sports Infrastructure Fund 2023-2024. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 endorses the following projects through an application for Sport and Recreation Victoria's Local Sport Infrastructure Fund 2023-2024. Those being the master plan for the council's swimming pools, the Beechworth Mountain Bike Club toilet storage and shelter structure, and the Barnawartha Football Club sports lighting. And 2, notes that pending a successful application or applications, council contribution in future budgets will be $40,000 for the master plan council's swimming pools, $50,000 for the Beechworth Mountain Bike Club toilet storage and shelter structure, and $75,000 for the Barnawartha Football Club sports lighting. Can I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Croucher, seconded Councillor Tyson. Oh, sorry, moved Councillor Tyson, seconded Councillor Croucher. Councillor Tyson.
Yeah, fantastic to see us putting our hand up to get more resources to our communities. These represent 3 very strong proposals for 3 very different sorts of sports. It'd be great to see new lighting for the Barnawartha Football Club. Very hard to kick the ball around in the dark. It might even up the playing field a little bit for us. And it's great to see that we're going to get some master plans for the swimming pools, which is greatly needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Councillor Croucher.
I'd just like to endorse what he said, but what Councillor Tyson said, I'm sorry. But I would like to mention the master plan for the council swimming pools, because swimming pools are we're so very lucky to have 5 swimming pools in our shire, but they are deteriorating. I know out our way, we've got lots and lots more people using them. So it would be really terrific to get these master plans to see where we are heading exactly with our swimming pools.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
There was a lot of concern regarding the Beechworth Mountain Bike Club toilet. It's on Crown land. It's not connected to water and is still not connected to power. However, I've been assured that there'll be a tank which will be able to supply water, and before this toilet is built, I understand that power will be connected to that site. So if that's the case, the community concern will not be necessary, and it should proceed as in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. I'd just like to say that I think it's a really good indication of how effectively we work with our different sporting organisations, that we're able to recognise these projects against some really strong criteria, so that different clubs know that they're being measured up against all of the different asks throughout the community. These are three really strong applications with three really important assets, with the swimming pools obviously being a really significant service that the council provides. And so I think we're very well placed to be able to submit these applications, and with lots of collaboration with the different clubs and people involved. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Go back to Councillor Tyson as the mover, if you'd like to sum up.
Yeah, I wish all three proposals the best, and I'd like to reassure the community that we do write these things very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 12.3 is the Significant Events Support Memorandum of Understanding. The item is for decision. The decision is that Council 1 formalise support for significant Indigo Shire events via establishing a 3-year Memorandum of Understanding with the respective organising committees of the Off-Grid Living Festival, the Beechworth Golden Horseshoes Festival, and the Yackandandah Folk Festival. 2, authorise the Memorandum of Understanding to be executed by Indigo Shire Council CEO. And 3, increases the event budget in 2023-24 by an additional $17,000 to support the Off-Grid Festival event infrastructure requirements, in brackets $15,000, and in recognition of the additional event expenses now required to deliver compliant and safe events, $2,000 for the Yak Folk Festival. And 4, notes the future budget implications in committing to these 3 Memorandum of Understandings. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Gold, seconded Councillor Tyson. Councillor Gold.
I think it's very helpful for our community groups and others who do run events in this Shire to have longevity for their planning. A lot goes into running the events. Certainly 2 of these are highly dependent on our volunteers. And I think for the organising groups and businesses that get involved, to be able to forward plan for up to 3 years gives them a good level of security and comfort, so they can plan in advance and potentially seek other sponsors and supporters, which is often critical for the longevity and sustainability of events. I think it's also of value when you're trying to market events and use those as a way to attract tourism and the economic benefit that brings to us, that you need to be able to plan and get that word out for longer than 1 year at a time. It's simply not sustainable for a business to do that level of work and only know that they may have 12 months in the value of that return.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak as seconder?
Great to see 3 events in 3 separate towns in our communities. It's great to see that they're going to be around for 3 years. A lot of our events have suffered through lack of volunteers and lack of support. It's great to see the council are supporting these events and the communities and people that are involved with them. It's fantastic to see a new event in the Off-Grid Living Festival coming to Chiltern, with about a $2 million spend around our communities across the Shire. And I hope that all do well and the weather is good for them all.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn?
I have some issues with this decision. While I believe that past events hosted by this entity have been very well attended, and the focus is providing a host of awareness raising information, products and services around sustainable living and becoming more environmentally responsible, it is nonetheless a commercial business. I think we need to differentiate on how we accommodate some of these groups in order to maintain a balanced appreciation of existing events and the benefit they return to local communities.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher.
I just think we've got three distinct events here with the Folk Festival and the Golden Horseshoe and the new event of the Off-Grid Festival. The only thing I would like to say, I just hope the Off-Grid Festival is successful in that it becomes self-sufficient to be able to run itself in the future, because I'm not really sure as to whether we can continue to put that amount of money into such a festival as compared to the others.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Before I go back to Councillor Gold as the mover, I'd just like to say, I think that this is another key moment in really promoting transparency in how we provide money to events or groups. It has been a practice of Indigo Shire to support 3 major events across the Shire over the last few years, and I think that it's a much more consistent, clear and transparent way, as it says in the report, to bring it to council as a multi-year event memorandum of understanding that then really identifies all of the monies that is spent on events between the events grants and this MOU. So I think that it's important that we do support some of the really significant events within the Shire that really support all of the pillars of tourism that we try to uphold. So for that reason, I think that a memorandum of understanding is a really appropriate thing to do going forward. I'll go back to Councillor Gold as the mover of the motion, if you'd like to sum up.
Thank you. I think all the points are really valid. I think having the MOU and the transparency is critical, and it shows council's, again, commitment to be able to display to the community at large what we're doing and why. I think the longevity of an MOU over 3 years is going to be incredibly valuable to the organisers of these events, and sets, I guess, a bit of a standard of what we might look to do in the future, so that larger events know that they are supported, and that gives value to those committees and volunteers to put in the hard yards. I think also the point that we do need a return on investment, that we're looking to these 3 events to have both sort of social, tourism, economic value for the Shire, and that over time we will be looking to see what that is. If there's other ways council can support events into the future, that's really great to know. But again, when we are supporting events that are predominantly run by businesses for profit, we know that there is a significant return to the community for that, but we need to continue to see that return to justify any expense that we might put forward.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 12.4 is closed circuit television, Indigo Shire. Councillor Gaffney.
That's right, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move a different motion to the recommendation.
Go ahead.
The motion is that Indigo Shire Council purchase 2 CCTV cameras in the 2024-2025 budget at a cost of no more than $5,000 per camera. These cameras will be available for installation by Victoria Police Local Area Command across the Shire to keep our communities safe. I have more to talk about it, but that's the actual motion.
I'll just ask you to read it out once more, Councillor Gaffney.
Indigo Shire Council purchase 2 CCTV cameras in the 2024-2025 budget at a cost of no more than $5,000 per camera.
Thank you, councillor
These
Gaffney.
cameras will be available for installation by Victoria Police Local Area Command across the Shire to keep our community safe.
Thank you, councillor Gaffney. So councillor Gaffney has now moved that motion. Sorry, CEO.
So, through you, Chair, I just want to confirm with that last dot point, it almost implies that we buy the cameras and give it to the police. Are you suggesting that they stay with council and they be installed?
When I speak to the motion, that will be part of it.
I'm just looking for instructions so that we know how to implement this afterwards. So they would be property of councils and installed upon advice from police, or they become police cameras. What I'm trying to clarify. I'm not trying to argue with, I'm just trying to clarify the resolution.
This was spoken about last Friday at the Local Safety Committee, and there's some types of offences that Indigo Shire would certainly be involved in partnership with the police. When I speak to the motion, it will be clear to you, I'm sure.
Okay, so we have a mover for that motion. Do we have a seconder, councillors, for the motion? Councillor Horn will second. Councillor Gaffney, would you like to speak to the motion?
We have a low crime rate and we want it to stay that way. We have had an increase in reported crime of 18.9% over the past 12 months. This is not sustainable. There was a large increase in reported domestic violence and intervention orders breached. Last Friday, the 24th of November, the Local Safety Committee, the police told us of the importance of CCTV in solving these offences and bringing those offenders to justice. The acting CEO was at this meeting. The Beechworth Police were unable to attend the Neighbourhood Policing Forum on the 8th of November because they had spent most of the night prior attending to a serious domestic violence offence. A question was asked at that meeting, how would CCTV assist in domestic violence issues? To which the officer in charge of the Rutherglen Police Station gave an example of an intervention order being taken out by a victim, and at 3 o'clock in the morning she hears somebody outside her bedroom window. The police are called at 10. She believes that it's a person who she took the intervention order out against. So they go round to that person's house and that person says, no, I never left home. She's telling lies. So in those circumstances, the police would be able to put a camera either at the entry point or the exit point of either the victim or the offender to get the evidence for that matter to be dealt with. The CCTVs would be portable and able to be moved where needed the most right across the Shire. It was mentioned on the front page of the Cora Free Press fairly recently about crime rates soar in Indigo Shire. A lot of people read that. It certainly caused for concern. People shouldn't only be safe, but they need to feel safe. And according to the police, having these cameras will assist in that regard. The question asked by the CEO is the council purchase those cameras. The police will decide where they would be able to be used or moved from to in association with us, but council wouldn't be installing the cameras. We wouldn't be putting cameras on council buildings or assets unless required. Indigo Shire currently has 4 CCTV cameras, one in the historic precinct, one at the rear of the Burke, one at the New Chiltern Hub, and there's a 4th one. And can you think of it? At the Yakandanda depot. So those cameras would stay, but the 2 cameras that we purchased at $5,000, which is a modest fee, but the police said that would be the type of camera that they would like the most. It's a partnership, the same as the local safety committees are. And there was a lot of domestic violence issues raised at the neighbourhood police forum, which the mayor was at. And I'd say that domestic violence was talked about more than any other crime in Northeast Victoria. So if we can help people, if we can help arrest offenders, if we can keep the community safe, I think that's what this council is all about.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Horn, you would like to speak as seconder?
Yes, I'm very supportive of buying this equipment and making it available to the police because in Rutherglen, our neighbourhood watch group has been very active in providing some cameras, and they've been very useful for the local police. In fact, they asked the neighbourhood watch if they would be able to send the signal straight through to the police station. But because they're on a building, they're on the Commonwealth Bank building, and because they don't have the NBN, they're unable to do that. So they are actively fundraising to provide this type of equipment. And I think it's very much in line with our duty of care to our, not only our general citizens, but also our business people.
Thank you, Councillor Horn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gold?
I feel that the report that we were actually given in the original recommendation, the council officer's report was really comprehensive. It was well considered. It reflected what the council officers were asked to do for us going back to June 2023, and they've put considerable time and effort into a report and a recommendation on how Indigo Shire can best respond to the needs of police in our region, but through the interests of what Indigo Shire Council is to do for our community. My concerns with the change in motion is that it preempts our budget process, that we've not had a formal request or report received from police. I note that we do have a low crime rate, yet the escalating crime is family violence, and I think that's appalling. I do think it's behoven on council to work with the police in the best way that we can to minimise that crime and to be able to support the police in dealing with the offenders. However, I think our ratepayers expect us to consider how we spend their rates in a much more holistic way than determining at very short notice to spend some of that budget, albeit it may well be a small amount, without having a full understanding of the implications of not just the use of the cameras, but actually the consideration of what ratepayers want and what the police want in a more informed way. I think it also sounds like cost shifting. If this is a valuable asset to the police, I would have thought the police would purchase the cameras themselves. And I've not had any advice in any way to suggest that the police couldn't do so, which again raises the question in why are our ratepayers being asked to fund cameras and equipment for the police, where the police could potentially be purchasing these for themselves. I think it is behoven on us to be really well informed when we choose to put our budget, and my biggest concern is that we are perhaps trying to solve a problem with a solution that is not necessarily fit for purpose. And I've not received any other advice to suggest what the police could do with council to help remedy this particular criminal activity before we spend money on a solution that may or may not actually solve the problem.
Thank you, councillor Gold. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Tyson.
I just have a couple of questions for councillor Gaffney, please. The cameras, they're not meant to be permanently fitted anywhere. And two, is this for the 2024 budget, is for the budget or for the budget consideration?
For budget consideration. What was your first? No, they would be moved to where they were most needed. I thought I said that, that they would certainly be portable. If councillor Croucher had a speeding or hoon driving in Kiwa, Tangang, Balanga, they could be moved there wherever there was a need. And quite often, different crimes go into different areas, and they might target something rather like they targeted the storage sheds in Beechworth and 20 were broken into. The police said at that time too that if they'd had CCTV of cars entering Beechworth from Wodonga, they would have apprehended them a lot earlier.
I think that
it was mentioned by councillor Gold.
But you're not responding to that. You're just responding to the questions of councillor Tyson. Councillor Tyson, did you want to speak to the motion as well as ask questions? Okay. Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak to the motion?
Press it on. Look, I'm a regular attender at the police. What was the committee called? The local police, and I feel that is a fairly true representation of the communities within our shire. We had Neighbourhood Watch there. We had everybody, and every town was just about represented at that time. And so there was a definite need for some sort of CCTV. And I think what Councillor Gaffney's talking about seems a pretty good idea as far as I'm concerned. That the portable idea of being able to take it around the shire sounds pretty good to me as far as I'm concerned. Budget-wise, yeah, I'm not sure of that particular part, but I think the idea is a pretty good idea. Yeah.
I'd just like to make a few comments. I think we've got really good relationship with our local police, both with the local police safety committee and with inspectors and all sorts of different levels of authority, right through to the assistant commissioner, I think it was, of police the other day. It's in all of the meetings that I've been in with police, they have reiterated that we have a very, very low crime rate, that these are very, very safe communities. They often say in comparison to Wodonga, and we refute that straight away to say don't ever make that comparison. We don't want to be any measured anywhere near their crime rate and be satisfied that we're better than that. I think that it's really disappointing to see a massive uptick in the crime statistics. But when you have a look at those and understand that it's predominantly contraventions of domestic violence orders, and that police see that as the system working exactly as it was designed, you understand that the communities aren't getting any less safe. It's just that there's different mechanisms being put in place and that they're doing their job. In terms of CCTV, we've been really aware of neighbouring examples where towns like Albury have done their whole CBD, and aware that other towns such as Wodonga have chosen not to do it because it was too expensive. I think that I've heard from police that CCTV doesn't prevent crime, but it sometimes helps with the perception of preventing crime, because people see that there is CCTV and feel safer, even though that's not necessarily reflecting the level of crime. I think that 2 cameras is the most appropriate reflection of the level of crime, if we were at all to enter into this CCTV. But I also think that 2 across our entire shire it's going to be a big task for those cameras to try to catch everything or anything for that matter. It's not a traditional council service, and so should that be a factor in considering whether we spend ratepayers' money in this way? And I agree with Councillor Gold. I like to see the budget line by line to know exactly what won't be funded if this is going to be funded in its place. But nonetheless, I think that we do have a really cooperative relationship with the police, and they did suggest that this could be useful within our communities. So that's what we have to consider tonight. I'll return to Councillor Gaffney as the mover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You can never have too many, but two is a good start, and I'm not saying that we should have more, and it's more for specific offences. And the example given by Sergeant Savage at the last local policing was, I thought, how would that victim feel that Indigo Shire couldn't cough up $10,000 to protect her and her family and bring that person to justice? Councillor Gold spoke about community. When the police were doing a survey, I stood on the corner of Camp Street and Ford Street with Sergeant Mel Clark. And we would have spoken to, I don't know, 30, 40 people. And we said, how can the police help you? How can council help you? And overwhelmingly, it was get some CCTV. So it's a community-driven thing. It's not something I just dreamt up. And that's easy to check. As for, there was only one motion. I haven't changed the motion. That's only a recommendation. There is only one motion, and I certainly haven't changed it. All I'm concerned about is the safety of our community, and I want them to feel safe. And headlines like that, crime rate saw in Indigo Shire, 18.9%, huge amount.
Okay, I'm going to put it to the vote. The motion as described by Councillor Gaffney. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. CEO, do we need to list the names? Councillor Horn, Croucher, Tysell, Gaffney, Price are for the motion, and against is Councillor Gold. The motion is carried. Item 13 is infrastructure services, and item 13.1 is the October Capital Works report. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council notes the October Capital Works report and year-to-date progress in the delivery of the Capital Works program. Do I have someone to move that motion? Moved Councillor Croucher, seconded Councillor Tysell. Councillor Croucher.
Yeah, well, look, much is happening in our shire with several projects underway, and it's great to see these new budgeted projects starting up or contracted out in the hands of our construction partners.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Councillor Tysell, would you like to speak as seconder?
Yeah, I'd just like to note that one of the things that started is some resheeting and some work on our potholes, which is kind of a good time of year to do it, considering that we're in the middle of our storm season. So hopefully it's a little bit preventative as well. Thank you.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Crouch, would you like to sum up? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14 is executive management, and item 14.1 is the annual report for 2022-23. The item is for information. The recommendation is that council receives the Indigo Shire Council annual report 2022-23. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Gaffney, seconded Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's well worth a read. It's not until you read it that you can see what the community and council have achieved, whether it's the construction of first changing places toilet facility at Yakandanda, whether it's the completed Waganya multi-purpose hard courts construction, adopting the first ever creative Indigo art strategy, and it goes on and on and on, and it's certainly worth a read. Are they available at customer service depots? I think the annual report is.
So these days, the annual reports are not generally printed in hard copy. They're generally digitally available.
Yep, thank you.
Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak as seconder?
Yes, I certainly have my hard copy. I like it to read it right through. I'd like to underline it. This is an absolutely great document which tells us all about the comings and goings in the Indigo Shire, and I'd like to congratulate those who put it together. It's obviously hard work, a lot of work put into it, but it's a great document, and I think it would be available for anybody to read. They would find it absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, Councillor Croucher. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Tyson.
I'd just like to say that once again, there have been many projects completed and started across the Shire, and the council's still been able to maintain a positive cash basis, and that all of our communities should be very happy with that, and the fact that we are being diverse in the projects that are being delivered, and a lot of these projects are going to be everlasting for our communities and help future-proof them.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'll go back to you, Councillor Gaffney, if you'd like to sum up. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.2 is the advisory committee minutes. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council receives the attached unconfirmed meeting minutes for the following advisory committee. The Indigo Environment Advisory Committee. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Tyson, seconded Councillor Croucher. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak to the motion? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.3 is informal meetings of councillors' records. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council accepts the attached informal meetings of councillors' records. To have somebody to move that. Moved Councillor Gaffney, seconded Councillor Horn. Do you wish to speak? Councillor Horn? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.4 is contracts awarded under CEO delegation for October 2023. The item is for information, and listed are the following contracts that were awarded by the CEO under delegation between the values of $250,000 and $500,000 for the month of October 2023. They're listed in the agenda.
Could I comment on that, Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Gaffney.
Is that 14.4?
Yes.
Yes. I'd just like to mention that equipment replacement, the council has replaced and now has a new truck and bitumen dispenser, which couldn't have come at a better time. It shows the council is fair dinkum in keeping our roads in as good a repair as we possibly can. There's still a long way to go, but the purchase of this vehicle for $435,000 shows that we're serious.
Item 15 is notice of motion, and there are none. Item 16 is councillors' reports. Councillor Gaffney, you wanted to make a report on the neighbourhood policing forum?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. At the last council meeting, Councillor Tyson raised the issue of there had been some media and chatter about the closing of one-man police stations at Tangambalanga, Yakandanda and at Chiltern. At the Neighbourhood Policing Forum, the Assistant Commissioner was there and I asked him that question directly. And he said it's certainly not on the agenda. They won't be closing any one-man police stations. They won't be moving the members from those stations to larger stations unless there was an operational decision for something special that may need extra policing. The superintendent, Joy Arbuthnot, added that where some of these one-man police stations are, they would be increasing the membership of those stations where necessary, particularly in major growth areas. And he mentioned places to the east of the Shire. So that's very worthwhile, I thought. It was a very interesting forum, by the way, as well, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Are there any other councillors' reports to the meeting? Item 16.1 is the Mayor's Diary for October 2023, listed in the agenda. Yep.
Would the Mayor be able to tell us what the hospital advocacy workshop was like?
Yes, so that's something that we've been involved in for quite some time with Wodonga Council, leading a group of 16 councils coming together to talk about the current proposal for Wodonga Health. We're absolutely on the record as saying that it's not enough money. It won't service the region into the future with the needs that we will have. We still have serious concerns. This meeting was a continuation of that. We heard from Health Infrastructure New South Wales, which are a very effective group within New South Wales government who are very effective at delivering projects, and that's exactly what they've been tasked to do. We talked about the master plan, which has had quite a bit of media coverage in terms of exactly how underwhelming a document it was. The conversations will continue. We're very pleased to acknowledge the fact that Bill Tilley has made comments recently about the master plan and just his concern for whether this hospital will service the region, and similarly that Helen Haynes has come on board and made some similar comments. So with each day, we hope that it gains more and more traction and more momentum, because it's not a political fight. It's about getting the best outcome for our region. And when the doctors and the health professionals say that they'd worked very, very diligently on a clinical services plan and on master planning for the area, and the fact that it all pointed to a single site hospital as what was required into the future, and then something contrary to that is proposed, we'll absolutely stay in discussions about exactly why that was, and really push to say how will that be fit for purpose for our region. No worries. Item 17 is the decisions register. It's for information. And item 18 is general business. Councillor Tyson, you've got some general business for the council meeting.
Yeah, I just have a question for Director Rice, please. I was just wondering if you could give me an update on the Beechworth childcare strategy, please.
Certainly. So this is a significant project for council aimed at helping to address the current unmet childcare needs in Beechworth. Council is working with Wendy Holland to facilitate a working group with representatives from the Department of Education and Training, Beechworth Kinder, Beechworth Community Childcare Centre, St Joseph's Primary School, Beechworth Primary School and the general community. They've had 4 meetings across a 6-month period with the purpose to review the Beechworth feasibility report, consider potential locations for a Beechworth early years hub and report back to council. So the group has shortlisted the sites down to 4 initial sites of interest and have since undertaken site visits and considered each site against a number of criteria. And 2 preferred locations have been identified, as the Beechworth Jail and the old hospital facade site on Church Street. So council's infrastructure team and planning department have provided initial response on these two options, noting that both have significant heritage challenges that would need to be overcome. So council is waiting final confirmation from the working group to see which one of those sites arises as the ultimate preference, following the community working group who are consulting with their network and members of the broader community. So a report will be prepared for council's consideration at a briefing in February is what we're aiming for, with the next step of the project to identify funding likely through the state government for specific site designs. And it's also been identified through this project the additional need for council to work towards facilitating a solution with the local kinder and childcare and department to address the current immediate childcare wait list, which is over 100 young people.
Thank you very much. As someone who works in the industry, I'm very aware of the shortages, not just around Beechworth, but across all our major centres. So it's great to see that we've been proactive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Is there any other general business for the council meeting? No. The next item that we'll go to is number 19, which is confidential item. Section 66 of the Local Government Act 2020 states a council or delegated committee must keep a meeting open to the public unless the council or delegated committee considers it necessary to close the meeting to the public because of a circumstance specified in subsection 2 applies. The circumstances are the meeting is to consider confidential information as defined in section 3 of the Local Government Act for security reasons, or that it is necessary to do so to enable the meeting to proceed in an orderly manner. The items that we will consider in confidential tonight meet those criteria. For the benefit of anybody watching the meeting, this is the last item of the agenda, and so once we go into confidential and come out again, that will only be to close the meeting. So, councillors, I'll ask for a motion that the meeting be closed to public in accordance, that the council meeting be closed to the public in accordance with section 66 of the Local Government Act 2020. Moved Councillor Gaffney, seconded Councillor Tyson. Can I put that to the vote? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We'll now move into confidential. we've returned to the public session after council carried a motion that we move out of confidential session. We'll declare the meeting closed at 8:07 p.m. with the next scheduled council meeting to be Tuesday, the 12th of December, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
Martin White.